Dante Greco.
Dante is a really smart guy.
Ladies love Dante.
I want it there. Look at that face. What's your name? Casey.
Dante Greco.
Dante was me, yours truly.
I'm gonna come.
Okay, we're back live here on the Dante Greco Show. I did a bit earlier on this prior to the press conference with the police. The police have now given a press conference. A lot more details have come out about Bryan Christopher Kohberger, not to be confused with any other Bryan Kohbergers out there. That used to be the conspiracy thing. They'd be like, why does every assassin have three names, like Lee Harvey Oswald, James Earl Ray? Hold on. 1 second, everybody. We got to take a break. 1 second. Anyways, people would always say, hey, why does every assassin have three names? And it's because you don't want them confused with anybody that has the same name, but just two names. So if there's a Lee Oswald out there or a Bryan Kohberger, you want to know it's Bryan Christopher Kohberger who did the slayings. Anyways, he's back. The police have given a press conference. Let's check out a little bit of footage from that first.
Last night, in conjunction with the Pennsylvania State Police, Federal Bureau of Investigation, detectives arrested 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, on a warrant for murders of Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee. I want to personally thank these agencies for their assistance in this case. Kohberger resides in Pullman, Washington, and is a graduate student at Washington State University.
Can we just take 1 second to say, this guy has been through it. People have been talking all kinds of stuff about Chief Fry, and he just put his head down and he kept doing the work. So, got to give it up to him.
We'll provide as much information as we can about the extradition to Idaho and the criminal process. However, due to Idaho state law, we are limited in what information we can release today until Kohberger has his initial appearance in Idaho court. I want to express my appreciation to our local community, the people of Idaho, and those throughout our nation.
All right, well, that's good enough. We've seen enough of the press conference. Let's just get into it. The police say 19,000 tips led to Bryan Kohberger's arrest. I mean, that's pretty crazy. They went through 19,000 tips in just 6 weeks. I know they had like 40 to 60 FBI agents working on this with them, but that's a lot of tips to comb through. And they indicate that the suspect acted alone. Geez. Let's go back to a different page here. It's again, Bryan Kohberger has been arrested. If you haven't been following the news, here's the freaky part. Apparently, so he went to Washington State University. He was a criminology suspect, and he just went back to class after the murders. This was in the Seattle Times. Bryan was in Pullman, Washington. He was a graduate student in the criminal justice at the Pullman campus. He lived at an apartment complex in Pullman, and he attended classes and finished the semester at WSU after the slayings. Some people were theorizing about that, when they thought it was a student at University of Idaho, that the guy just did it and then went back to class or went home for Thanksgiving or whatever. This person, B.K. Norton, in the criminal justice graduate program, said they were in all 4 classes with him last semester, and he was in class and finished the semester after the killings happened. That's a true psychopath. Again, this is the guy, Bryan Kohberger. He has the look of a guy who thinks he's so smart. And I talked about this earlier. He actually made he tried to get criminals to answer questions for his research on Reddit prior to this. So he was probably on Reddit in all the subreddits, talking the Moscow murders and the Idaho murders subreddits, where they were discussing theories on this case and updates. He was probably reading all that stuff. And my theory is he wanted to put some of his theories into practice. That's my theory. He wanted to put his theories into practice. He wanted to test some of this stuff out and see if he could get away with it. He probably thought he outsmarted everybody, even though he was so dumb. His white Elantra is the one they were looking for, or at least a white Elantra belonging to somebody that he knew, because they towed a white Elantra away from the home where he was caught. Let's check out the updates, okay? We all know what happened at this point. We all know this is the guy. He's been caught. Cops are still searching for his weapon as he's charged with 4 counts of murder after they traced the white Hyundai to his PA address. They caught him because of the DNA, by the way. How SWAT teams descended on sleepy Poconos town to catch libertarian Idaho murder suspect. Libertarian. This doesn't make libertarians look good. I know we can't paint all libertarians with this broad brush. I mean, but he seems like a cold, like, what's libertarian about murdering 4 people as they sleep? That seems to be anti letting people have the freedom to choose what they want to do. He was obsessively vegan. Okay, let's read this article here in the Dante Greco newsroom. SWAT teams descended. He's in custody. He was OCD about veganism, which is even weirder. Guy hates meat, and he's slicing people. Forced his family to buy new pots. That's right. He forced his family to buy new pots that no meat had ever been cooked in. He sounds crazy, but not in like a fun, crazy way, in a cold, psychotic way. Still searching for the weapon. It's a short drive across state lines. Now, he lived close. He lived like 15 minutes away, but he was hiding out in Pennsylvania. He's a registered libertarian, although does not appear to have had any active social media profiles at the time of his arrest. I wonder who he voted for in the last election. Who was the libertarian candidate last time? It wasn't Gary Johnson this time. Was it George Jorgensen? Joe Jorgensen? Look at that face. Guy wanted to carry out his research. Sick fuck. A relative told the New York Post that he's OCD about his eating habits. It was above and beyond being vegan. His aunt and uncle had to buy new pots and pans because he would not eat from anything that had ever had meat cooked in them. He seemed very OCD. He's got that look in his face. He has those kind of like very intense eyes. What a freak. 28 years old. Criminology student. They said his DNA was discovered at the scene of the crime. That's the thing. He thinks he was so smart, but he left DNA and his car was on video. Fucking idiot. No prior arrests. So it's unclear how officials got hold of his DNA. I think I read somewhere that they were surveilling him for about 4 days. This is how they caught well, not quite how they caught the Golden State Killer. They got a lead from one of those like ancestry DNA type of things, had a hunch that it was him, and then they staked out his house until he took the trash out and then picked up like a can of Coke and got his DNA off of it, and that's how they got him. They probably did something similar here. Yeah, he was kept under surveillance with the FBI watching him for 4 days. Where there's something about a friend of his who was in class. Like he apparently changed. He used to be Nick McLaughlin, who was friends with Kohberger at school, told the Daily Beast he was stunned to see his old acquaintance arrested. He said that Kohberger was down to earth when he graduated junior year, but at the start of senior year, Kohberger returned thinner than a rail, had turned aggressive, and taken up boxing. McLaughlin added, he always wanted to fight somebody. He was bullying people. We started cutting him off from our friend group because he was 100% a different person. And the friend has no idea what prompted the sudden change. That's something to look into. Wonder what could have happened to him between junior and senior year. You know, maybe he got radicalized. We still don't know if he was an incel. That theory could still hold up, that he's just an angry, like student PhD, incel, methodical type. Little is known about his family, his father Michael and mother Mary Ann. Gotta feel terrible for them. They live in the home where he was believed to have been staying when he was arrested. Well, okay, so did they have any idea? Is this like a Brian Laundrie situation where they kind of knew what their son did? You know, he's got a white Elantra, he's in criminology, lives close to the murder scene, but we're not going to turn him in because he's our son. It's quite interesting. He's got 2 older sisters. Feel bad for them, definitely. His older sister Melissa's a therapist in New Jersey. Yikes. While he is accused of atrocious brutality, Melissa and his mother Mary Ann have spoken out in the past against violence. Wow, they spoke out after Uvalde. What a shock. You know, just a few months ago, national tragedy makes news everywhere. You're just commenting on it. And now it comes home. It's in your own family. It's your brother, Bryan. Weird Bryan. Wow. Crazy. Oh, wow. This is him getting his graduating. You know who he looks like? I see it now. Everyone is saying that Bryan Kohberger looks like this guy. Glenn Howerton from Always Sunny in Pennsylvania. But actually, Bryan Kohberger looks like Jake Gyllenhaal. Now, stay with me on this one. Gyllenhaal. All right, let me go back. That was a better picture. Gyllenhaal, Kohberger. Gyllenhaal, Kohberger. The nose is a little bit different, but Kohberger looks more like Jake Gyllenhaal than he does Glenn Howerton from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Not that this matters or has any effect on the case, but wow. So let's see how they did it. Graduated with a Master of Criminal Arts in May 2022. His DNA was discovered at the scene. They tracked down who owned the car. Insane. This is an email apparently sent to University of Idaho students. Yeah, everyone's safe now. Neighbors shocked by suspect's arrest. Let's see what the neighbors are saying. You'll never guess, Ralph. Bryan was arrested. A woman shouted to her husband. Guess what for? The Idaho murders. Let me change the view so you guys can see this a little better. This is a neighbor, Eileen Cesaretti, Italian. I don't think he's capable of doing something like this. I pray to God he's innocent. You got to give the cops credit. They played this close to the vest. They didn't give in to public pressure or family pressure, and they took a lot of shit and they got it done. So good for you, police officers in this case. Neighbors said they were shocked to wake up to law enforcement vehicles outside the Kohberger home following the 3 a.m. raid. We are shocked. We are in a gated community. We purposely moved from an ungated community to a gated community because we thought we'd be safer. No, there's a quadruple murderer across the street. Another neighbor said she loved Kohberger's parents, but never saw Kohberger in her 3 years of living there. They are the nicest people. My heart is breaking. Were the parents inside? Were the parents of Bryan Kohberger home when this happened? That's a big question. You know, You hate to see parents get charged or have to go down when their son kills 4 people and they may not have known anything about it ahead of time. And then son comes home and he's acting like a weirdo and he's got a white Hyundai Elantra. And all of a sudden it's like, what are you doing here still? Thanksgiving break is over. Go back to school. Bryan, why are you still here? Why with your white Elantra? The cops are looking for a white Elantra. You're here. You're a criminology student. What's going on, Bryan? But he's your son, and you don't want to turn him in or accuse him of being a quadruple murderer. It's kind of an awkward conversation to start around the breakfast table. And yet, if he was there and they did know and they were harboring him, they're probably going to face some consequences. You know, like that kid, one of the shooters. There's so many shootings I don't remember, but the kid who was the shooter and his parents bought the guns for him. I could be talking about 2 or 3 different shootings, to be honest, but they're now charged. So, you know, you can't harbor your kids. It's like the Brian Laundrie thing again. Like I said before, it could be a Brian Laundrie situation. Although the Laundries seem to have played it. And again, I'm not advising criminals here. I'm not advising people to do this. I'm just saying, as an observer, it seems like they played it better because they are getting away with it scot-free, even if they knew that their son killed his girlfriend in the desert. Let's see what else the neighbors are saying. Okay. The front screen door of the home appears to have been ripped off its hinges, and the front window was smashed, covered with duct tape. The door and smashed glass were discarded behind the home. No one answered the door at the home, but dogs could be heard barking inside. I'm in disbelief. This is who they say did it right here. I can't believe he came back here. Not in a million years. Yeah, I mean, usually something like this, you're not going to suspect that the person's going to be a murderer. Most people are normal. Even murderers can pass themselves off as normal, especially because this guy wasn't like a fringe. I mean, from what we know, it sounds like he was relatively normal up until senior year. Something pissed him off between junior and senior year, according to his friend, Nick McLaughlin. But yeah, you're usually not going to suspect someone only after they commit the crime. He said the two would often, Jacobson said Kohberger was a grade below him. He said the two would often run together at night to keep in shape during high school, but had limited contact since then. That was 11, 12 years ago. People change. Yeah, I read someone on Reddit saying that Bryan was part of a running group, and he said he was going to be gone for a while, and he was missing for weeks after the stabbing. It's just still crazy to me. He went to class. He went to class right after and finished the semester. Like, people had to have been talking about it, and he had to just be sitting there like, oh, yeah, you know, scary times. Must have been so proud of himself, him and his research. Piece of shit. This is, you know, now everyone on Reddit is trying to find posts by suspicious people, and it's I talked about this earlier, but the sleuths, the internet sleuths, got it wrong again, same as they got it wrong during the Boston bombing, same as most murder investigations. The internet sleuths have gotten it wrong. Nobody had Bryan Christopher Kohberger on their quadruple homicide bingo card. And it is, to me, more infuriating because it makes less sense for it to be this asshole who did it. Makes less sense than somebody who knew them. It's more frightening too, but it's more infuriating than somebody that knew them, because I thought David Moscow was the suspect. Wait, David Moscow. Is that a real person, or is that it's the town of Moscow in Idaho? By the way, Joy of Everything, if you want to join the chat, I'll send you a link right now, brother. You just say the word. Yeah, it's just infuriating because as I suspect, he was doing this because he wanted to test out his theories. these academics. And it makes less sense, and it just seems more like what a waste. Not that any murder is it's like, oh, that was a good murder. That murder counted for something. No, it just is like, you fucking piece of shit. You just randomly selected, or whatever your process was to select these four. You killed them because you're a student, because for your PhD. Again, not Always Sunny in Philadelphia guy. Jake Gyllenhaal is the more apt comparison for Bryan Kohberger. Kohberger. It's an unusual last name. Sounds German. Let's see. Let's go check in on what Brian Entin is doing here. Brian Entin is someone saying that they heard that his sister lived next door. I haven't seen that. I know his older sister lives in New Jersey. Maybe his other sister lives next door. That would be something. Brian Entin is the guy from News Nation. He went out there. He's been covering it ever since it happened. He never left. Joy of Everything. You're at a vineyard. Okay. All good. All good. Brian Entin is outside the house. Looks like. Let's see what Brian's doing.
Is there anything? I'm a reporter. Is there anything you can say about Brian? Okay, thank you. I'm a reporter.
What a shock for reporter Brian Entin that the whole time the killer was also named Brian. And I wonder if the killer thought, wow, this Brian Entin guy is doing a lot of very thorough coverage of the case, and I am named Bryan Kohberger. Let's see. Oh, this is Bryan Kohberger's apartment complex. Looks not. Wait, is that the? No, because he didn't live across the street. It looks just like the place that was across the street that I've seen in pictures, where the students who were killed took some pictures. That's Kohberger's apartment complex. The killer next door. You never know. You never know if your neighbor is a murderer. Usually they're not. But in this case, he was. Scary stuff. They're still looking for the murder weapon. You wonder, did he dispose of it? Did he keep it? Criminal psychologists theorize that he was proud of the weapon. He held on to it. Maybe he's hiding it somewhere. He threw out kind of a decoy question when he got arrested, saying, oh, did anyone else get arrested yet? But the cops are confident that it was just him. Let's continue. He looked drugged at school. Maybe he was drugs. Maybe he was on drugs. Let me show you that page. Maybe he got a prescription. You got to see if he got a prescription. He's on one of those, like a Xanax thing or whatever the Sackler family's peddling right now. Allegedly. I don't need them suing me. They got to keep paying record fines for starting the opioid crisis, the Sacklers. They raided his office. We got any pictures of his office? A neighbor told DailyMail.com exclusively that Kohberger had only moved to his apartment complex at the start of the semester about 2 months ago and hadn't seen him for weeks. You know, this is one of those guys. Again, I'm just talking. I'll answer your question in 1 second, Joe. This is one of those guys like Ghislaine Maxwell, where you say, why didn't you leave the country? Because people were theorizing that maybe the killer had escaped up to Canada. He had plenty of time. It sounds like they didn't really get on to him until recently as a suspect. When the White Elantra news came out, you should have just left. Made your way to some country where they don't. I mean, maybe he didn't have the money, but he looks okay. He looks in relatively good shape. Why not just leave? Same with Ghislaine Maxwell. She's sitting in New Hampshire. Go to a country that doesn't have an extradition treaty. Why don't you go move in and share a villa with Roman Polanski in Paris? Again, I'm glad they are caught. I want them caught and I want them punished, but like, is it hubris? Is it idiocy? I don't know. Okay, let's read about it. Joe, you had a question. It was, do you think he will confess or is this going to trial? What are your thoughts? I think it's going to go to trial. Everyone's lawyer comes into the room. Once they see the reality of being in the interrogation room and it sinks in that they're going to jail, the lawyer says, you should probably plead not guilty and let's see what we can do. I think he will plead not guilty and it will go to trial. Also, I think as a criminology student, why would he want to pass up the chance to sit through a trial? I mean, he loves this shit. He would probably enjoy sitting through the trial. Maybe he'll represent himself. Cocky son of a bitch. Room 12, where Kohberger shared space with 2 other PhD students. Fuck, imagine being those 2. Oh, yeah, sorry. I forget that other people are looking at this. Let's go a little slower. That's the building. This is the life of Brian. This is the horrific sequel to Monty Python's Life of Brian. Except in this case, it's Bryan Christopher Kohberger. That's my dog whining a little bit. What's up, boy? Evidence. A lot of evidence. It's just crazy. It once again was somebody no one suspected at all. And honestly, if someone had put forth this theory that it was a criminology PhD student who carried this out, probably because, he just got so wrapped up in his work, he wanted to test out what he had learned, that would sound ridiculous. If the internet sleuths had said that, we'd all say, okay, that's the most ridiculous theory. Like that, there's too many factors need to fall into place for that to happen. One second here. Let me help my dog. My good deed is done for the day. I helped my dog up onto the bed. Okay, let's get back to Bryan Kohberger. Everything we know about him. Yeah, this is the freaky thing. His digital footprint, that he had conducted a study of criminals' decision-making and posted the chilling research project to Reddit, seeking help from ex-cons. Fuck, I have a shirt that looks like that. I gotta throw that shirt away. Hello, my name is Brian, and I am inviting you to participate in a research project that seeks to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. The study should take 15 to 20 minutes to complete. Must be 18 or older. Student investigator Bryan Kohberger. Scary stuff. Here's some of the questions. Did you prepare for the crime before leaving your home? Why did you choose that victim or target over others? And what was the first move you made to accomplish your goal? Holy shit. This is insane. This is his life's work. This murder was his life's work. Everything he knew. Everything he worked on and studied, it culminated with this. It's almost unbelievable. I almost can't believe that this is what happened. It's like when Donald Trump was in office. Some days I would wake up and read a headline and say, does that say President Donald Trump? And I like things about Trump. I'm not a Trump hater, but, you know, it was just like Donald Trump, the businessman from TV. This is unbelievable. As Jay Leno would say, this is unbelievable. Yeah, this is true. No, the guy is a criminology student. Yeah. It's time for headlines. After committing the crime, what were you thinking and feeling? Was another. He also asked how criminals leave the scene and whether they acted alone. This guy was cheating on the test. He was getting all the answers. In the context of a criminology degree, the survey may seem perfectly innocent. It gains harrowing cynicism in light of his arrest on suspicion of quadruple homicide today. Scary guy. DeSales University. Always sucks for the school. It's like, oh, DeSales University. That's where Bryan Kohberger, the quadruple murderer, went. Yeah. Oh, Washington State, where Bryan Kohberger was going when he killed people. You know, you feel bad for the schools a little bit. This picture, and look at those eyes. Hey, Brian. Remains unclear if he knew any of the 4 victims from the November 13th murders or why police suspect him. Believed to drive a white Hyundai Elantra. I don't think this story, well, famous to me, I don't know, you know, is a white Elantra going to be the same as a white Bronco? Probably not. I don't think this story is as closely, excuse me, as I've been following it. I think the mass mainstream public has kind of dropped off a bit in the last 6 weeks. So it's not going to be like a white Bronco, but a white Elantra. He looks like a white Elantra guy. Someone says it just became his obsession, I suppose. I wonder if school was the catalyst or he was a wackadoo to begin with. I think that it's like a nature versus nurture thing in a way. Like the capability had to be somewhere inside of him, and this just helped bring it out. Maybe the studying of crime desensitized him to the point where, you know, like a scientist or like a doctor, you know, like doctors are able to compartmentalize and slice into people and operate on them. Or even detectives, you know, yeah, the detectives, the cops, they need to put aside the human emotion, the human reaction, and just treat it like a job. And he probably, you know, he's up there. And it's something about the Pacific Northwest. A lot of serial killers up in Washington and Northern California, and that's not Pacific Northwest, but Northern California, Washington, Oregon. There's a lot of killers up there. I think there's something about a little too much stillness, a little too much cabin fever, a little too much, you know, just not enough going on. Living in a small area. And not everybody goes this way, but it just seems to happen. But then you look at the Night Stalker who grew up in LA. So who knows? I'm not a criminology student. I know that. High altitude. Yeah, it could be. Maybe not getting enough oxygen to that Brian brain of his. Okay. Police sources say they were watching Kohberger and trailed him to Pennsylvania, where his family lives. So maybe he just went there recently. I would love to know more. It's fascinating stuff. But most importantly, they caught the guy. They took him in. The families can rest as easy as they are going to be able to from this point out. You know, I say it happened relatively quickly, considering it must have been planned. You know, this was not just like a spur of the moment crime of passion where it's very easy to catch the person. This guy planned it out, and the cops wrapped it up in about 6 weeks. So again, you're not going to outsmart the FBI, whether you're an internet sleuth or whether you're a criminology student. Like this day and age, you can't murder people anymore. The day of murder is over. The day of murder, that was like something for the 20th century. You can't do it anymore. You will always get caught. There's too many cameras. DNA evidence is, DNA evidence, and also the technology that we have to match DNA. I mean, you see it every day. People who thought they got away with murders, even in the time to murder someone was probably like from the 1950s and before, because you'll see people who killed somebody in the 60s getting caught, or at least getting, if they've died already, they're at least getting revealed as the killers because of DNA technology. So you can't kill anymore. You can't be a criminal, which is good, but just don't try, you know, write a novel or something. See what Twitter's talking about. Yeah, he's going to be in there through New Year's. That was the house. That's his parents' house. Rough. Classic case psychopath. Okay, let's hear what this lady has to say. It's crazy. I did not expect this to come. I happened to actually just check one of the Reddits last night before I went to bed, see if anything new had happened. And today I got the news. Oh, shit. One second. Sorry. It's my streaming software. I need better streaming software.
You so much for being with us. This is kind of a different perspective we're taking now. You're a psychotherapist. So from your perspective, what stands out to you most about what we know so far about this suspect?
Yeah, I think, we're looking at a very classic case psychopath. What really stuck out to me is that we have found that he was a master's student in criminal justice studies, and he had done a survey with ex-cons on Reddit where he was asking them their motivations and how they conducted their crimes. And I think that was a really interesting piece. And I think as we go on and the investigation goes further, we're going to find that he was probably plotting this out and using the information from the surveys in his own criminal justice program to carry out these murders.
Yeah, and Lena, something that stood out to me, again, obviously a lot of people have major.
So this sounds like what I've been saying. So apologies.
So we're not talking about having these majors specifically, but it's this combination. And then now the fact that this person is accused of murdering, first degree murder.
He's got that, hey buddy face. Hey buddy.
Murder, 4 different cases here. You mentioned the fact that he is a PhD candidate in criminology and criminal justice. We know in May.
More like a PhD douche. Oh!
we've confirmed he just graduated from a school in Pennsylvania with a master's degree in criminology. We know he graduated from that same school in 2020 with a bachelor's degree in psychology. So we're looking at specialties here, for lack of a better word, majors.
Okay, whatever. Not that interesting. He loves this. In my opinion, he loves it. This is his whole thing. This is his graduate. This is his diploma. This is his master's degree. This is everything he's been looking for his entire life. He probably doesn't care if he lives from here on out. Unfortunately, because of the case being so high profile, I would guess that he's not going to be beaten to death in prison, which is, I don't usually condone prison violence. We are supposed to be rehabbing these people, but we can make exceptions for people like Bryan and people like Dzhokhar Tsarnaev and those types. All right, this could be interesting. Oh, now again, this is Twitter. We don't know. These people could be clout chasers, but let's see. This woman is giving an account of him having a job in security at some university and that he was a junkie at one point. Heroin. Okay, let's see. Let's just see what she's saying. Let's give her a chance. Again, we don't know if this is true.
Something like this up. I am just in absolute shock right now. I was heading to lunch when my mom called me, and immediately I knew something was off because I have the type of family that we don't call each other. So if someone does call someone, we know something's bad. She called me and asked me about the murders. I didn't know where she was going with it until she said that it was Bryan Kohberger, and naturally I freaked out and called about 8 of my friends. My brother was really good friends with him. My other friend, Brandon, was really good friends with him. I'm going to have a picture of him with him on the green screen as well. I'm shaking still. But anyway, let me show you. This is back. This is Brandon, the one I was just talking about. It's his wife, Brianna, and that's me. This was back in 2017. Obviously, that's Bryan. Still has the dead face that it's the eyes. I don't know. But when I spoke to him back in 2017, he was clean. He was a heavy heroin user back in high school. And it was just nice to see the kid clean up. And at that time, he said he was doing security detail. I believe it was out of school is what he told me. But he seemed like he was better. Obviously, that wasn't true. Here's another picture from a party that we had at Brandon's house. That's Bryan there. He used to be a bigger kid as well. But again, that's him. And then at the same wedding, I'm here, but he's back there. He was sitting at the same table as me and my mother. But he is back there enjoying a drink. I was sitting right next to him. We talked. He seemed fine. My mom sent me the old school yearbook. That was him.
Holy shit.
Kohberger, that's him. He went to Pleasant Valley. Graduated with, I think, my friend Christopher, a year younger than me. This is when he
does have that blank, like the stare of the Sandy Hook shooter. Remember the Sandy Hook shooter was like this? He's got that kind of intense blank stare. Heroin. Okay, let's keep listening. This seems, do you guys agree? This seems kind of legitimate. She's got all these pictures with Bryan Kohberger. Unless she's a whiz at Photoshop, she's an Adobe Express member like I am. I don't think getting together all these Bryan Kohberger pictures would be that easy to do. Okay.
Nonchalantly decided to make me drive him around the Poconos for heroin, and I had no idea. I thought I was just doing a nice deed because he needed something, and it turns out that he was getting heroin. Sorry, my voice is shaking. I might make a part 2. I probably have to. I don't have a 6-minute feature. I only have a 3-minute feature. I also talk really fast, so I'm sorry.
Wow. Bryan Heroin Kohberger. If that is it, so he's just he must have dead. Okay. I feel like everything do we have to give disclaimers for everything? I'm not making fun of people with drug addiction and people who have problems. All right. I feel for people who get help, etc., etc. Now let's talk about it. Fucking guy was on heroin, or at least at some point was on heroin, and he probably deadened himself inside. He probably blew out his what is that stuff that makes you feel good? Adrenaline, not adrenaline, the other thing. Adrenochrome? No, wait, that's the Democrats. So that's what they eat out of live human babies. No, he probably just blew out his nervous system with all his heroin use and just deadened himself inside, probably lost touch with humanity. And add that to he probably already had psychopathic tendencies, and he's a criminology student, and he's getting desensitized to it because he's treating it just like work when he's studying, and this is his thing. This girl's legit. I want to find out if she did a part 2. I don't know who she is. I wish Quaker lady that Tweeter had tagged whoever this is, but we'll find it. We'll find you. This is some footage of them doing it. You'll be angry if he blames drugs, someone says. Yeah, I know. Amygdala. No, someone said amygdala. Amygdala isn't what I was looking for. It's the what is it when you work out and you release endorphins? Endorphins. Maybe it's the endorphin. Whatever gives you the endorphins, whatever releases the endorphins, you blew it. Unless that's the amygdala, in which case, how embarrassing for me. I don't know shit about biology. Wow. Crazy. They got him before the new year. Give it up to the cops. Give it up to the FBI. They did this. They got this done. They got this done before New Year's. People can celebrate a little bit. These are some videos of the victims. I don't know. I feel weird playing videos of the victims for some reason. We want to remember them, but at the same time, it just seems, I don't know, disingenuous. Like I didn't know them. Okay, let's see. As an arrest has been made. Yeah, getting back to it. So many accusations were just thrown around. All of them were wrong. As an arrest has been made for the Idaho 4 murders, let's not forget that this former FBI agent and completely irresponsible idiot that never gets anything right, J. Gilliam Seal, accused Kaylee Gonsalves' father of being a suspect in the murders. Jonathan Gilliam, you are a disgrace. Yeah. They accused the father. People were speculating it was the cartels because some of the victims' parents were supposedly in jail on drug charge, all of that, which the police always ruled out. But the fan fiction was ridiculous. And I admit, of course, not going to be a hypocrite. I read every bit of it. I went looking for it. I was hoping somebody out there had some real information that they were somebody was really leaking, but they didn't. Yes, I do follow George Takei. Thank you. Oh my. Oh wait, I don't follow George Takei. I will follow. I followed him in the past. I don't know what happened. This one goes out to all the internet sleuths who were doxing, harassing family members, and saying the police were doing a shitty job. You all failed to find the killer. Go back to your day jobs and let the professionals do their jobs. It is true. Look, people could speculate, but you got it wrong. And I got annoyed too when people were like, oh, these cops don't know what they're doing. It's been 6 weeks. Yeah, it's been 6 weeks. They're gathering the evidence. They told you they had 20,000 tips to get through. Give them a break. And you're not supposed to release the information because it can jeopardize an arrest and a conviction. Not to mention, like in the Delphi case, the 2 girls that were murdered down by a railroad, they only released part of a recording. They didn't release the other half of the recording where one of the little girls who was killed says gun. Because the guy they ended up arresting They didn't tell him that there was a gun, and so he was like, "Yeah, I've got a gun, and it's in my house." And blah blah blah. So eventually, yeah, you're right. Someone says Delphi took 6 years. It did take way too long, considering all the information they had on that suspect. But at the same time, certain things need to be withheld from the public. That is not the suspect. This is just some Amish guy. Jokes. How about that too, Bob? 2 big arrests. One day it's Andrew Tate. The next day it's Bryan Kohberger, the quadruple murderer. A lot of arrests to round out 2022. Anybody else want to Jesus? Anybody else want to anything else to add? We've covered a lot of this. Any questions? See if there was anything else I wanted to talk about today. You know what? Maybe I'll just, instead of making this the last show of the year, this guy says, did anyone else see the Christian Bale American Psycho resemblance? Oh, that's another good one. Yeah. He did have a bit of a Christian Bale thing. He did. Yeah, especially in this picture. Oh, you're not seeing this? The hell? Come on, man. He did have a Christian Bale American Psycho thing, although we've never seen him smile yet, except for that one picture where he's like, thank you very much, person who wrote some nice stuff there. Thank you. I should have more subs. I agree. We're going to get more subs in the new year. We're going to keep putting out content. We're going to do a lot of stuff. You have a good night too. Thank you, everybody. The important thing is this guy's caught, and we send our best to the families. I know they're not watching, but we'll put it out into the atmosphere. I'll see you guys hopefully before next year, which is in 2 days. So hopefully, I'll do one more show to round out the year. This is my first year of doing this show, and I want to spend a special thanks to everybody who has watched up to this point. Okay, good night. Have a great Friday.
Have a good life. We will see you soon.
Much love.
Thank you.
Love.
All right, Kanye.
So once again, thank you to my brother. Tell him your name again.
Dante Greco.
2 words. Made in America.
Dante, you're doing great.
That's good. I never done anybody over in my life. It's from.
Listen, I want you to leave my good friend Ringo alone.
Yeah.
Hal.
Pretend you're a horse in a parade.
Have a good day.